I like this lesson because it's going to show doing the worksheets, getting the students understanding the grammar and the vocabulary, and then tomorrow it'll tie in a really hands-on, functional way to apply the language. The goals for today's lesson is to help students acquire more vocabulary. When we start the year off teaching Spanish, I ask them, well, why did you take this class? And majority of the time students say, well, we want to have a fluent conversation in Spanish. And so I've really been able to break it down for them and say, well, what makes up a conversation, and trying to help them see that conversation starts from just these basic sounds, and then to the letters, to the vocabulary, to putting together correct sentences. And we kind of talk about our overarching goal or theme in the classroom is that they are global citizens, and that to communicate effectively is important as a global citizen in another language, as well as to understand the culture. And to be able to do that, we need to have clear sentences, and learning things that students would sometimes think is boring, such as grammar or the vocabulary or the rules of the language, is important so that they don't sound unintelligent in Spanish. And we kind of play around with it in English also. How would it sound if this person came up to you and asked you a question in really broken English? A lot of times we talked about our attitudes to tourists or to foreigners coming to Hawaii or to America in general, and that they're like, well, we really don't have patience. And I said, well, just think just the opposite. If you went to their country, they're not going to have patience for you if you keep stumbling through your words. And it's important for you to study this because you can apply it. And then I think the balance as being a teacher of middle school is then tying in those more engaging opportunities, such as cooking days or bringing in guest speakers, so that they can actually try to use their language skills and to see that they are making progress. Today we're going to do a lot of formative assessment with the whiteboards. Trying to, instead of always just calling on one student at a time, having all the students answer at the same time. And if they just hold up their whiteboards, a lot of times the peer corrections come in. They'll look at each other's whiteboard and they'll be like, that's not it. Oh, yes, it is. And they'll defend their answers if they really know they're correct. And then it becomes a great teaching tool among the peers. So today is going to be a lot of formative. Eventually, this is going to tie into a summative conversation in quarter 3. We're going to be talking about ordering food at the restaurant. So students are going to be able to have to put these conjugated verbs and sentence structures into a conversation with me, actually, in quarter 3 as part of their summative assessment for speaking. First, I think it's how much I've planned, and for every lesson that I've learned a lot of times that the success of the class has been dependent upon how much I, as the teacher, have really put thought into it and structured the lessons. There are other things that I do to build in the management. From the very beginning, we talk about why are you here and what are your expectations. I learned this from another teacher. It's called an eye chart. And basically, it's my goal as the teacher is to get you to reach independence. And so we have a section of the students are expected to do this, and I, as your teacher, I also have a certain expectation, and you guys have a certain expectation of me. And so a lot of times now, instead of like actually making an eye chart with the students, I'll just say, okay, when you guys are going to work on this in your partner groups, I expect you to stay on task. I expect you to only talk about this. But then what do you think I'm going to be doing? Am I just sitting here having fun? I was like, no, I have an expectation. And I asked the students, well, what do you think I should be doing while you're in your groups? And sometimes they'll say, well, you should come around and talk to us or listen to us. And then that also puts an expectation back on me, and that it's an equal balance of power, and cooperation is something that I try to create in the classroom as a facilitator of the learning, and not necessarily as the director saying you have to do this. Really helping students to take ownership of their learning and that they actually want to. I think students love learning and they want to do things, and they want to know that if I do this, this makes me independent, or this helps me achieve independence. I'm hoping for them to really talk about grammar today. There are infinitives in English, infinitives in Spanish. One of the things I do enjoy teaching about Spanish level 1 is that we do still look a lot at the English language, and they're like, oh, we should know this, we should know the parts of speech, and so it is a great, I think, integrated review for the English department, and as well as they're learning Spanish, that the better they know their own language, native language, then they'll be able to learn any other target language. So I do expect them to be talking about grammar, infinitives today, conjugation. At some point, I think we'll be looking at why are you in this class, and helping them remember that the bigger reason why we're learning this lesson is because we want to have conversations in Spanish, and in order to do that, we need to have this basis of conjugating these verbs in the present tense and clearly communicating. They love whiteboards, from my experience. Sometimes I've learned this trick also from another teacher. Just let them draw for about 30 seconds. Just let them have fun with their utensils, and then say, okay, erase it. Let it's work time. So let's get focused on the review. We're going to review a lot. I think that students are also going to enjoy this lesson because it's such a functional piece. We're going to be studying about how to use the verb to go in Spanish. And with that verb, it's so functional in so many settings that you can say your future plans with it, you can say your direction where you are going, and it's actually fairly easy to use and apply, and I think that they are going to feel very successful with it at the end of today, tomorrow with this. In particular, at this school, we have a lot of military students, and we have a lot of students that come in with a Latino background, and their parents maybe did not teach them Spanish, or their parents were in the generation where they were told, no, you don't learn Spanish. So it's interesting to see that these kids are coming in saying, no, we want to learn how to speak Spanish and talk to our grandparents. Or when we go to Mexico, because a lot of them still will visit the country that their family is originally from, they'll say, well, we want to be able to have a conversation and know what people are talking about when we go. So I think very personally, that's one way I've noticed just being at this school is how it relates to them. In other ways, to other students that might not have a Latino background, almost every time that we talk, the students want to travel and they want to be bilingual. They think it's really neat. They think it's amazing. And I think there's just an internal motivation for them to want to explore the world and see their future possibilities.